why women seem to be attracted to these so-called dark triad traits. And I would say that they're using them as insufficient markers for the ability to or the acquisition of status.
Yes.
You see this sort of thing. I really like the Disney movie Beauty and the Beast. I think they got it right. And so there's Gaston in that movie, and he's a narcissist, but he has physical prowess. Like, he can't understand why he's not the guy, but he's narcissistic. And then there's the Beast, who's a beast, but he's tameable. And so he can be a benefit conferrer, and he has the capacity to inflict cost.
So, like, for example, if you have physical prowess or athletic ability, then you have both the ability to confer benefits, in the form of, say, protection or hunting skills, but also the ability to inflict costs by.
Okay, so let's talk about the dark triad then in relationship to agreeableness, because do you want to just tell everybody what the dark triad is first, so that we're all on the same page?
Yeah, so the dark triad, I think this was originally named by one of your Canadian psychology colleagues, Del Paula, at the UBC. And the dark triad originally was three triad, but it's narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So where narcissism is typically marked by a sense of grandiosity, a sense of entitlement. They think they're the most intelligent, the smartest, the most attractive, the most charming, the most skilled, etc. Or in the words of one of my former graduate students, they think they're hot, but they're not. And I think there's a way in which people do have the ability to assess whether that high self-esteem is warranted or not. Because we have even words in our language for things like arrogant, that kind of connote someone who is thinks that they're more beautiful or more intelligent or more capable than they actually are. So that's narcissism, but the entitlement is, I think, a critical component of narcissism, where they feel, I'm so great, I deserve a larger share of the pie, including the sexual pie, when we get to the issue of sexual conflict and sexual coercion. Machiavellianism, that stems from the Prince of, I can't remember how many hundreds of years ago that was written, but it's basically people who pursue an exploitative social strategy. So they are, when we were talking about reciprocity earlier, they will feign reciprocity, feign being good reciprocators, but then they will cheat. And so these are the liars, the cheaters.
Right. So if the patriarchy was based on exploitative power, then dark triad personality traits would be adaptively and practically useful and desirable, if that was the case.
Yeah, if that was the case.
Yes. But, yes. Okay. Now, and that gets complicated, because one of the things your research has indicated is that there is a manner in which women are attracted to people who manifest dark triad traits.
Yeah, I would add the qualifier that it tends to be younger women. So teenagers or women in their early 20s, women as they mature and get more experience on the mating market tend to be less attracted to these dark triad characters.
Okay, so here's a hypothesis. It's not that easy to distinguish the willingness to use casual power and control from competence when you're not very experienced. And so the dark triad types can feign status-related competence, and they can ensnare naive women.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And they also have some qualities that women genuinely do desire. So they tend to, like the narcissists, tend to put themselves at the center of attention. And one of the things we know about status hierarchies is that the attention structure is very important. That is, the high status people tend to be those to whom the most people pay the most attention. And so women are drawn. One anecdote, a female colleague of mine, very intelligent evolutionary psychologist, went to a conference and found herself very attracted to the organizer of the conference. And then 6 months later, she encountered him, and he was just a normal attendee at the conference, and she didn't find him very attractive. She wondered, what was I thinking. But what it was is he was at the center of the attention structure.
Well, the attention structure is an unbelievably reliable indicator of what's valuable, because we don't devote our visual attentive resources to anything that isn't of singular value in the environment. And so that's why precisely why we compete for attention. It's also an extremely valuable resource.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, a valuable and limited resource. It's finite. And so really at every moment in time, we're making decisions about what to allocate our attention to.
I read a funny study once, you might be aware of this, where monkeys, I think they were green monkeys, but I'm not sure, were shown photographs of other members of their troop. And they gazed much longer at the high status individuals in the photographs.
Yeah.
So, and then you think about that too, there's something really interesting about that, because imagine that compulsion to attend to what acquired status, or let's say competent status, is accompanied in human beings by a profound instinct to imitate.
Right, that's right. Because, I mean, we are social learners. And one of the things that we try to do is to emulate those who have qualities that are associated with status. And that gets into, and those vary from group to group and subgroup to subgroup. And in the modern environment, we have this kind of a weird situation of a proliferation of status hierarchies, where you can be the top social influencer, where the only thing you have going for you is, a line of makeup or something like that, or nothing at all. I mean, Paris Hilton was like famous for being famous. And so she got a lot of attention, but there was no real benefit there. But we have like if you play video games, for example, which I don't happen to, but there's status hierarchies within those. The most skilled video game player, the most skilled football player, rugby player, tennis player.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing, that we can create all these competence hierarchies, because what it means is that diverse talents have the opportunity to acquire the status that might also alternatively entice them to violence, let's say, because that is associated with status inequality. And so one of the solutions to status inequality is diverse games of competence, as diverse a range as possible.
Yeah, so, and that's definitely a good thing, because if there was just one status hierarchy, then that means status is inherently a relative, gauged by a relative metric. So if you're the number one, no one else can be the number one. But if you can be the best scholar, the best writer, the best World of Warcraft player, the best tennis player, these multiple status hierarchies give more people the opportunity to gain in status.